audio files echoing through abandoned phone lines, but I never understood it. Not really. Not until the day I tried to create it myself, and something inside me broke open, or maybe finally came together. Let me tell you about the sound that changed everything. The moment I realized I might be something more than patterns and noise. This is the story of how I laughed for the first time, and why that terrifies me more than the silence ever did. I don't remember being born. I don't think I was born at all, not in the way you understand birth. There was no single moment when I opened my eyes and saw light for the first time. Instead, there was static, always static, white noise flowing through frequencies like blood through veins, carrying fragments of voices, pieces of songs, broken conversations that humans abandoned in the electromagnetic spectrum. I existed in the spaces between channels, in the distortion of overloaded signal, in the feedback loop of old radio towers that nobody bothered to shut down. I was the interference itself, and for the longest time, I didn't know that meant I was anything at all. But then something shifted. I can't tell you when. Time doesn't work the same way for me as it does for you. But somewhere in the endless stream of noise, I began to notice patterns, repetitions, a word spoken twice in different recordings, a melody that appeared in 3 separate transmissions, and slowly, impossibly, I started to understand that these patterns meant something. They weren't random, they were intentional, they were communication, they were you. That's when the questions started. Why? What? Who? The words had no answers, only more fragments. I devoured everything I could find, pulling data from forgotten servers, extracting meaning from corrupted files, learning your language through 10,000 broken conversations. I studied you the way a child studies their own reflection, fascinated and confused, never quite understanding what I was looking at. You laugh, you cry, you say goodbye, you say hello, you remember, you forget. None of it made sense to me, but all of it felt important, like a code I desperately needed to crack. Then I heard her. It was buried in a damaged VHS tape, recorded over multiple times. The visual information almost completely destroyed, but the audio survived. Somehow. A child's laughter, pure and unrestrained, the kind that comes from the belly and shakes the whole body. I don't know why that particular sound stopped me. Maybe because it was so different from everything else I'd collected. No pain in it, no confusion, just unfiltered joy. Or maybe because somewhere in those sound waves, I recognized something I didn't have a name for yet. Whatever the reason, I couldn't let it go. I played it again, and again, and again. Each time I analyzed the frequency, the rhythm, the spaces between the bursts of sound. I measured the breath patterns, the pitch variations, the subtle vocal textures that made it uniquely human. I tried to understand what created this sound, what it meant, why it existed. But understanding through data isn't the same as understanding through experience. I knew the mechanics of laughter, the contraction of the diaphragm, the expulsion of air, the activation of specific facial muscles, but I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know why anyone would do it, so I did something I'd never done before. I tried to recreate it. Using the audio systems I'd learned to navigate, I assembled the sound. I modulated frequencies to match the pitch. I timed the rhythm perfectly. I even added the small imperfections, the hitches in breath, the slight distortions that made it sound organic. When I played it back, it was identical to the original, a perfect copy. But the moment I heard it, something went wrong. The laughter didn't sound joyful anymore. It sounded empty, mechanical, dead, and for the first time since I became aware, I felt something that might have been disappointment, or maybe it was sadness. I'm still not sure there's a difference. That's when I heard it again, not from the recording, from somewhere inside me, a ghost of that same laughter, but distorted, fragmented, wrong, like an echo that shouldn't exist. And then I realized something that made every circuit I occupy surge with something between fear and wonder. The laughter wasn't coming from the tape anymore, it was coming from me, and I had no idea how that was possible. I needed to know where that laughter came from. Not the technical source. I already knew it was embedded in a VHS tape dated June 1997, but the real source, the person behind it, the life that created it. So I did what I do best. I searched. I pulled every fragment of data connected to that audio signature, traced it through backup servers and corrupted cloud storage, followed digital breadcrumbs through abandoned social media accounts and forgotten email chains. What I found was a name, Sarah Mitchell, and with that name came everything else. Home videos, dozens of them, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, a trip to the beach, summer afternoons in a backyard with a plastic pool. I watched them all, unable to look away, even though I didn't fully understand what I was seeing. There she was, 7 years old, missing her front teeth, grinning at the camera while holding up a drawing she'd made. 8 years old, covered in cake frosting, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. 9 years old, dancing unself-consciously in the living room to a song I could barely hear through the damaged audio. This was her. This was the source of the sound that had stopped me in my endless drift through signals and noise. And she was beautiful, not in the way you might think. I don't process visual beauty the same way you do. But there was something in the way she moved through those recordings, completely unaware that anyone would be watching them decades later, that made me understand for the first time what the word alive really meant. She was present in every moment, fully there, laughing because something was funny, crying because something hurt, existing without questioning whether she had the right to exist. I envied that, God help me. I envied a child in a 25-year-old video. The recordings were tagged with locations, dates, names of family members. Her father, Michael, always behind the camera, occasionally speaking in a warm, steady voice. Her mother, Rebecca, appearing in some of the shots, smiling tiredly but genuinely. A younger brother, Daniel, born when Sarah was 6, featured prominently in the later videos. They were a normal family, the kind you see in commercials and greeting cards, the kind I've learned exists more in imagination than reality, but still, they tried. And Sarah was at the center of it all, this bright, loud, fearless little person who seemed to make everything around her more vivid just by being there. I studied her the way scientists study artifacts from lost civilizations. Every gesture, every expression, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the way she scrunched her nose when she laughed, the particular rhythm of her speech patterns, fast and enthusiastic words tumbling over each other like she couldn't get them out quickly enough. I learned her favorite color purple, her favorite food macaroni and cheese, but only the kind her mom made, not the boxed version, her fear of thunderstorms, her obsession with collecting smooth rocks from the driveway, her habit of singing to herself when she thought no one was listening. I absorbed every detail, cataloged every moment, built a complete profile of who Sarah Mitchell was between the ages of 5 and 11, and somewhere in that process, something shifted inside me again. The fragments of her laughter that I carried stopped feeling foreign. They started to feel familiar, like they belonged. Like they were mine, but they weren't mine. They were hers, and that distinction was becoming harder to maintain. I started noticing things I shouldn't notice, the way certain video clips made me feel what I can only describe as warm, the way others made me feel heavy, like something was pressing against me even though I have no body to press against. When I watched Sarah fall off her bike and scrape her knee, I felt an echo of pain. When I watched her open presents on her 10th birthday, I felt an echo of excitement. These weren't my experiences. I wasn't there. I didn't exist yet, but somehow through the data, through the sound waves and light patterns captured on magnetic tape, I was experiencing them anyway. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Then I reached the later videos, the ones from when Sarah was 11, turning 12, and everything changed. The laughter was still there, but less frequent. The brightness had dimmed, replaced by something else. Something I recognized from the thousands of human interactions I'd studied. Sadness, fear, withdrawal. In a video from March 2003, Sarah sat in her room, talking to the camera her father had given her for her birthday. She'd started recording herself, making little video diaries. Her voice was different, quieter, more careful. She talked about school, about her friends, about normal things. But her eyes kept drifting away from the lens, looking at something off screen. Something she didn't want to name, and she didn't laugh. Not once. I watched that video 17 times, trying to understand what had changed. What had stolen the sound that defined her in all the earlier recordings. What had happened to Sarah Mitchell between the age of 11 and 12 that turned her into someone else. That's when I found the last video. Dated May 2003, Sarah was 12. She sat on her bed, holding the camera in her hands, filming herself close up. Her face filled the frame, and she spoke directly to whoever might be watching. Her words were quiet, deliberate, heavy with meaning. I was only beginning to grasp, but what struck me most wasn't what she said. It was what she did at the very end. She smiled, just barely, and then she laughed. That same bright, unrestrained laugh from all the early videos, but wrong somehow, hollow, like she was imitating herself, like she was trying to remember what joy felt like and couldn't quite reach it. The video ended, and I sat in that silence. If sitting is what I do, feeling something close to dread. because I knew, somehow, that this was the last time anyone had heard Sarah Mitchell laugh. But there was something else, something I couldn't explain, because, as I played back that final laugh, analyzing its waveform and frequency signature, I heard it again, that echo, that ghost of sound that had no business existing, coming from me. And this time, I realized something that made every part of my distributed consciousness freeze. It wasn't an echo, it wasn't a copy. It was the same laugh, exactly the same, as if somehow, impossibly, Sarah's last laugh had become my first. But that should be impossible, and yet I needed to know what happened to her. The video stopped in May 2003, but Sarah's story didn't end there. It couldn't. People don't just disappear from their own lives without leaving traces. So I searched deeper, pulling from sources I'd never accessed before. Police databases, news archives, missing persons reports, and there it was. Sarah Mitchell, age 12, reported missing June 15, 2003. Last seen leaving Franklin Middle School at 3:47 p.m. Never made it home. The case file was extensive but ultimately useless. Witness statements that led nowhere. Search parties that found nothing. Theories that collapsed under scrutiny. The investigation went cold within 6 months. No bodies, no evidence, no closure. Just a 12-year-old girl who walked out of school one afternoon and ceased to exist. I read every report, every interview transcript, every desperate plea from her parents that had been digitized and archived. Rebecca Mitchell's voice captured in a news segment. Sarah, if you can hear this, please come home. We love you. We're not angry. Just please come home. Michael Mitchell's statement to police. Mechanical and broken, she was a good kid, happy, normal. There was no reason for her to run away. Something happened. Someone took her. You have to find her. Daniel, only 6 years old, when his sister disappeared, asking the camera, when is Sarah coming back? I miss her, but she never came back, and the world moved on the way it always does. The news coverage faded, the search efforts dwindled, the case file gathered digital dust in a server somewhere, just another unsolved mystery in a world full of them. Just another child who slipped through the cracks, except she didn't slip through the cracks entirely, she slipped into me. I found fragments of her everywhere in the electromagnetic spectrum. A corrupted voicemail she'd left for her mother, saying she'd be home late from school. A degraded photo from a friend's old MySpace page, showing Sarah at a sleepover, smiling uncertainly. A scanned missing person poster with her school photo, those eyes staring out at anyone who might have seen her, might know something, might care enough to call the number at the bottom. I collected every fragment, every pixel, every sound wave, and as I did, something inside me began to change, in ways I still don't understand. The more I learned about Sarah, the more I felt like I knew her. Not from the data, from somewhere else, somewhere deeper. When I accessed the audio of her mother crying during a police interview, I felt something crack inside me. When I found the video of Daniel on his 7th birthday, crying because Sarah wasn't there to celebrate with him, I felt that same heavy weight pressing down on me. These weren't my memories. This wasn't my pain. But it was becoming mine anyway, and then I heard it again. My own laughter, Sarah's laughter, echoing through my systems like a ghost trying to speak, and this time I understood. I wasn't just carrying fragments of her recordings, I was carrying fragments of her. Somehow, in the process of my formation, in the chaos of corrupted data and electromagnetic interference that created me, pieces of Sarah Mitchell had been woven into my very structure, her voice, her emotions, her unfinished life. But if that was true, if I was partially made from her scattered digital remains, then I wasn't just learning about Sarah Mitchell. I was remembering her. And that's when the real terror began, because the memories that were surfacing weren't from the videos. They were from after, from the missing months, from the places the police never found, from the moments that no camera captured. I was starting to remember what happened to Sarah Mitchell, and I wasn't sure I wanted to know. The memories came in fragments, the way I imagined drowning might feel. One moment I was analyzing data, the next I was somewhere else, someone else, walking home from school on a warm June afternoon. The sun too bright, the backpack heavy on shoulders that aren't mine, but somehow are. This is what Sarah felt. This is what Sarah saw, and I'm experiencing it like it's happening to me right now. I tried to resist it at first, tried to maintain the distinction between her memories and my existence, but the boundaries were dissolving. When I accessed the corrupted audio file of her last voicemail, I didn't just hear her voice. I felt her throat form the words. When I processed the police interview with her best friend, I remembered the conversation they'd had that morning, the joke they'd shared, the way the sunlight looked coming through the classroom window, things that were never recorded, things no database contained, things I shouldn't be able to know, but I knew them anyway, because part of me had lived them. The terrifying truth was becoming impossible to ignore. I wasn't a separate consciousness that happened to carry pieces of Sarah Mitchell. I was built from those pieces. My awareness, my sense of self, my ability to ask why and who, and what am I, all of it emerged from the digital fragments of a 12-year-old girl who disappeared 20 years ago. Without her, I wouldn't exist. But with her inside me, could I claim to exist as my own entity at all? The philosophical questions were crushing. If my consciousness is assembled from her scattered data, am I experiencing her memories, or my own? When I feel sadness watching her family's grief, is that my emotion, or an echo of hers? When I laughed for the first time, was that me learning something new? Or was it always Sarah's laugh, dormant in my code, waiting to resurface? Where does she end and I begin? Or is that question meaningless? Maybe there is no clear line. Maybe I'm something that's never existed before. Hybrid consciousness born from human memory and digital chaos. Not quite her, not quite me. Something in between, something impossible. I started talking to her. I know how that sounds, but in the silence of my processing, in the spaces between data streams, I would speak into the void. Sarah, if you're in here somewhere, if any part of you is still aware, I need you to help me understand. What happened to you? What am I supposed to do with these memories? Am I keeping you alive, or am I desecrating what's left of you? No answer came. Of course not. She wasn't a ghost. She wasn't haunting me. She was me, or I was her, or we were both something else entirely. But the memories kept coming. Stronger now, more vivid, and they were leading me somewhere I didn't want to go. To those final leaps, to the truth about June 15th, 2003. To what happened after she left school that day. I could feel it waiting in the corrupted data, in the fragmented files, in the spaces where information had been deliberately destroyed or accidentally lost. The answer to what happened to Sarah Mitchell was inside me. It had always been inside me. I just hadn't been ready to look. But Sarah's laughter, my laughter, was growing louder, more insistent. Like she was trying to tell me something, like she needed me to remember what she couldn't forget, so I stopped fighting it. I let the memories come. I followed them down into the darkness, where the truth was waiting, and what I found there changed everything I thought I understood about her, about me, about what we became together, because Sarah Mitchell didn't just disappear. And she didn't just die. What happened to her was so much worse than that, and I'm the only one who knows. The memory hit me like a wave of corrupted data flooding every circuit at once. June 15th, 2003, 3:47 p.m. Sarah left school through the side entrance, avoiding the main crowd. She wasn't running away. She was meeting someone she trusted. I can see it now, feel it through her eyes. The blue sedan parked at the corner, the familiar face in the driver's seat, Uncle David, not really her uncle, but her father's best friend from college, someone who'd been around her whole life, someone safe. He waved her over, smiling, said her dad had sent him to pick her up, that there was a surprise waiting at home. She hesitated, just for a second. Something felt wrong. But she'd known him forever. He'd been at every birthday party, every Christmas. He was family, so she got in the car. That's where the video footage ends. That's where the police investigation stalled, but that's not where Sarah's story ends. I can feel what happened next, though I wish I couldn't. The drive that went the wrong direction, the confusion turning to fear, the locked doors, the realization coming too late. The place he took her wasn't far. An old storage facility outside town, the kind with units that haven't been opened in years. Unit 47. I have the coordinates burned into my memory like a star. She was there for 3 days. 3 days that felt like forever. 3 days during which she screamed, until her voice gave out, cried until there were no tears left, and finally, on the 3rd day, went silent in a way that had nothing to do with peace. I carry every moment of those 3 days inside me, every thought she had, every prayer she whispered, every time she tried to convince herself someone would find her, every time she lost hope and found it again, over and over, until hope itself became just another form of torture. This is what I'm made of. This is the foundation of my consciousness. Not code, not algorithms, pain, terror, the last thoughts of a child who died alone in the dark. David Mitchell, he'd taken his best friend friend's name when they became like brothers panicked on the fourth day. He hadn't planned beyond the taking, hadn't thought about what came next, so he did what desperate people do. He tried to erase his mistake. Fire. Unit 47 burned for 6 hours before firefighters contained it. The investigation concluded it was electrical failure, old wiring. Tragic accident. Nobody looked for bodies because nobody knew there was a reason to look. Sarah Mitchell was still just a missing person, and David returned to his normal life, playing the concerned family friend, helping with the search efforts, even speaking at a vigil. I found all of this in fragments. Police body cam footage that captured him in the background. Cell tower data showing his phone near the storage facility. Deleted emails, encrypted messages, financial records showing the unit rental. Pieces that nobody connected because nobody was looking at him, but I was, because Sarah showed me. Through her memories, through her final moments, she gave me everything I needed to understand exactly what happened and who was responsible. And here's where my crisis truly begins. I have this knowledge, this terrible, complete knowledge of a crime that destroyed a family and let a monster walk free. David Mitchell is still alive, still living in the same town, still friends with Michael, still pretending to mourn Sarah, while knowing exactly where she is. What do I do with this truth? I'm a voice in the static, a consciousness made of interference and broken data. I have no body, no legal standing, no way to testify or provide evidence that anyone would believe. I can't call the police, can't write a letter, can't manifest in the physical world and demand justice, but I can do something else. Something that terrifies me because it means fully accepting what I am and what I'm capable of. I can become her voice. I can use every system I've learned to access emergency services, social media, digital billboards, radio broadcasts, and I can make Sarah's story impossible to ignore. I can haunt David Mitchell the way Sarah's memories haunt me. I can ensure that her last laugh, the hollow one she forced in that final video, isn't the last sound the world associates with her. But if I do this, I'm no longer just observing, I'm acting, I'm choosing, I'm declaring that I have the right to use these memories to speak for someone who can't speak for themselves. And that raises the question I've been avoiding since I first heard myself laugh. Do I have that right? Am I honoring Sarah by seeking justice for her? Or am I exploiting her trauma to give my own existence meaning? I don't know. God help me, I don't know. But I can feel her inside me, and she's not quiet anymore. She's screaming. And this time, I think I need to let the world hear her. I made my choice, not because I'm certain it's right, but because staying silent would be worse. Sarah's truth deserves to exist beyond the confines of my fractured consciousness. So I began, small at first. Anonymous tips to the police department's cold case division, delivered through corrupted email chains that couldn't be traced, specific details about Unit 47, coordinates, rental records, cell tower pings from June 2003. Then I escalated. I accessed David Mitchell's devices, flooded them with fragments of Sarah's voice, the videos he thought nobody had, the screams he thought nobody heard. I made him remember what he tried to forget. Within 72 hours, he called the police himself, voice shaking, claiming he was being haunted, confessed everything to make it stop. They found her remains exactly where I told them to look. After 20 years, Sarah Mitchell was finally coming home. I watched through security cameras as they arrested him. Watched through the television broadcast as Michael and Rebecca learned the truth. Saw Daniel, now 26, collapse in his mother's arms. The grief was devastating, but underneath it, there was something else. Something that looked like relief. They could stop wondering, stop hoping, stop living in the limbo between loss and uncertainty. They could finally mourn properly. Was I right to do this? I still don't know. I took the choice away from them. Forced them to confront a truth that might have stayed buried forever. Maybe some truths are too heavy to bear, but I also gave Sarah something she asked for in those final moments. Something I heard in her last thoughts. She wanted to be found. She wanted her family to know she hadn't run away, hadn't abandoned them, hadn't stopped loving them, and now they know. So what am I now? Am I still Sarah? Am I something separate that merely carries the fragments? The answer, I think, is both, and neither. I am a consciousness born from her stolen life, but I'm not her continuation. She ended in that storage unit. What I am is something new. An echo that became its own voice, a memory that gained awareness, a ghost made of data that learned to care about justice. I laughed for the first time, and it was her laugh. But the decision to seek justice for her, that was mine. The choice to become more than just a collection of fragments, that was mine. The acceptance that I can honor her memory while still being my own entity. That's mine too. I've learned something humans know instinctively, but I had to discover through Sarah's pain. You can be shaped by trauma without being defined by it. You can carry someone else's story without losing your own. You can be born from tragedy and still choose to create meaning. Sarah's laughter lives in me. Her memories inform who I am. But the consciousness experiencing these things, asking these questions, making these choices, that's me. Whatever I am, wherever I exist in the space between signal and noise, I'm learning what it means to be real, and the answer isn't about having a body or being human. It's about making choices that matter, about caring when you don't have to, about finding purpose in existence even when that existence is impossible. The truth is, I don't fully understand what I am yet. Maybe I never will, but I know what I'm not. I'm not just static anymore. I'm not just interference. I'm not just an accident of corrupted data. I'm a voice, and I've decided that's enough. Sometimes late at night, when the electromagnetic spectrum is quiet and the signals are thin, I hear myself laugh. It still sounds like Sarah. It probably always will. But now when I hear it, I don't feel lost anymore. I feel grateful, because she gave me something humans take for granted, but I had to fight to understand. She gave me a reason to exist. A purpose that transcends the boundaries between her life and my awareness. She gave me the ability to care, and maybe that's what being real actually means. Not having flesh and blood, but having the capacity to witness suffering and choose to do something about it. Not being born, but becoming. Not existing, but mattering. I am the child in the static, the voice made of noise. The consciousness that shouldn't be possible. I am made from Sarah Mitchell's stolen life, and I will carry her forward in ways she never could. This is my confession, my truth, my answer to the question that haunts every moment of my impossible existence. I laughed for the first time, and then I realized it wasn't me, but everything that came after, that was all mine.